Chapter 9. Her cell phone was ringing before she even made it home, despite that it was only a 10-minute drive. She checked it before answering, of course, in case it was Darryl. It wasn't. It was Vidalia. She was too nice a person to be sent to voicemail, so Sophia picked up the phone and said hello. "I'm so glad you're there, Sophie. I've been worrying about you. I was calling because I want to make sure you'll be home for Sunday dinner. It's the last one before Christmas. Family should be together." She smiled. She'd been longing for a family to spend Christmas with ever since her own mom had passed away 3 years ago, and her dad only a few months later. That was love, what they had. So why was she resisting the open arms of this newly enlarged branch of her family? That, she thought, bore some consideration. But in the meantime, she decided to open her heart. "Of course I'll be there. Can I bring anything?" "I'm never opposed to an additional dessert," she said, "but don't fuss." She glanced at the seat. "How do half-moon cookies sound?" "Well, they sound fine, as long as there are 24 or so. I'm halfway there." "Wonderful." Darryl's head hadn't stopped spinning since he'd watched Sophie walk out of his room thinking he'd betrayed her. Damn it, he knew she'd be pissed when she found out what he'd been up to, but he hadn't figured on this. What the hell? Okay, he had to remember the point here. He put on his clothes as he reminded himself she wasn't entirely the injured party here. She broke into his room, went through his stuff. He'd awoken with a slight headache from Grandma Betty's spiced rum punch, and had decided to soak in the big old claw-footed tub in his bathroom, and he fell asleep in the water. Fell asleep thinking about her, actually. He'd dropped his truck at Armstrong's garage last night after their date for a quick oil change. The owner was yet another of his boss's relatives. He'd walked back from the garage to his room above the Long Branch. It wasn't that far, and it was a nice night, for December. And besides all that, he was thinking it would serve the same purpose a cold shower would have done, because his night with Sophie had left him more wound up than a billy goat on the 4th of July. There was a tap on his door. He was buttoning his shirt and decided to stop, just in case it was her again. Idiot. He was an idiot. Why was he hoping it was Sophie? Why was he leaving his shirt unbuttoned in case it was? She thought he was working for her sleazebag ex. She ought to know better than that. He opened the door, saw Jason McIntyre standing on the other side, and resumed buttoning. He ignored the disappointment that rushed through him at the sight of his boss. "Morning, Jason."
"Morning, Darryl. I hate to ask you this, and please don't take it wrong, but
He shifted his feet and didn't quite meet Darryl's eyes.
"What's up, boss? Just spill it."
"My keys are missing," Jason blurted.
"Your keys?"
"Yeah, the keys to every room in this building. I left them in my office like always, and—" Darryl held up a hand.
"That would explain why I found your cousin in my room when I got out of the bathtub just now."
Jason blinked.
"Sophia?"
"Yeah."
"What the hell? Where does she get off taking my keys and—"
"She must have, been suspicious of me. Yeah, that's probably it. I must have slipped last night at that Haggerty House thing somehow."
"You were at the Haggerty House ball with her?"
Jason asked.
"Hootenanny,"
Darryl corrected.
"And it doesn't matter. She knows I'm a PI, and she saw that photo you guys sent me, so I'd know her when I saw her."
Jason was still staring, waiting. After a long moment, he heaved a sigh.
"What's going on with you and her?"
"It's nothing." Darryl turned around to walk to his dresser for a clean pair of socks, and to avoid Jason's increasingly curious eyes.
"We shared a booth at the diner yesterday morning. No big deal."
"So you had breakfast together?"
"Yeah. And then you took her to the ball. Excuse me, hootenanny." "The tickets were an early Christmas gift from your local Santa. She opened it while we were having breakfast. I just happened to be there. I think she'd have asked anyone who had been there with her instead of me."
He glanced at his wallet, still lying on the bed, picked it up.
"She saw my PI license." "Sounds like that's not all she saw."
Darryl snapped his head up fast.
"What the hell is that supposed to mean? You said you were in the tub. Did you walk out here buck naked and give her the full show, or what?"
"No, I didn't. And if I had, it wouldn't have been my fault. My door was closed and locked."
"Yeah, okay."
"I didn't do anything inappropriate here." "Yeah, he did. He totally did. He kissed his boss's cousin, and almost more than kissed. She was the subject of a job. Bad form. Real bad.
Did you tell her why we really hired you?
No. I was kind of hoping you'd do that.
Why would I?
Because it's unethical for me to do it. And because I don't want her thinking I work for her piece of crap ex. That's why.
Why do you care what she thinks?
I don't.
Why the hell did he avert his eyes when he said it?
But she's going to rat me out to you, and she'll expect you to send me packing. You're going to have to tell her something.
We'll see.
Jason lowered his head, shook it, and said,
My father wants you at Sunday dinner tomorrow, out at his place.
Your father?
The total change of topics had his head spinning all over again.
But I haven't even met him.
Wouldn't matter. He and Vidalia aren't very good at taking no for an answer. We gather around 2.
Tomorrow at 2. Gotcha. I'll be there.
Good.
Darryl blurted,
Will Sophie be there?
Jason looked at him, crooked one eyebrow.
Just because, it might be awkward if she still thinks I'm working for the bad guy.
Jason, who clearly saw right through him, nodded.
She'll be there.
Saturday nights were the busiest nights of the week at the Long Branch. The tourists who were the lifeblood of the business came all week long. When you're on vacation, every day is Saturday, or you're not doing it right. But on true Saturday nights, a lot of the locals were looking for a good time, too. The local dive bar, the OK Corral, was owned by Vidalia herself, giving the recently formed brand McIntyre clan kind of an unfair corner on the market, if you asked Sophia. But no one was asking. And they were good people, all of them. You didn't have to know them very long to know that. No one in town seemed to be complaining about the brand McIntyre saloon monopoly. Despite their loyalty to their local hangout, though, people liked to mix it up once in a while, and Saturday nights were the time they loved doing it best. For that reason, the boys had decided to skip the dinner theater bit they had going, reenactments of scenes from the old TV series Gunsmoke mostly. That was for tourists. Starting last summer, Saturday nights at the Long Branch included live music by country bands, locals, and now and then some real up-and-comers. The bands setting up equipment now were one of the most popular in the area, according to Joey.
Hey,
Darryl said. She'd known he was there before he'd said a word. It was early yet. The customers were only just beginning to wander in. She looked at him, but didn't say anything. She couldn't believe she'd kissed him like that, and would have done more than kissed him, even though he was probably working for Skylar.
Who's the band?
He asked, sliding onto a bar stool in front of her. She'd been pouring nearly empty bottles together to make room for more full ones on the rack. Bourbon right now. The good stuff. She set the bottle down so she wouldn't get distracted by his eyes and spill it. Rising Outlaw, Sophia said. I wonder if they really meant Rising Outlaws and just ran out of room on the drum. She looked at him, saw him frowning at her like he was trying to figure her out, and shrugged. What? I think about things like that.
You have a curious mind.
He leaned his elbows on the bar so he could pull himself closer and whispered,
That's why you were going through my wallet?
I was going through your wallet to find out why you had a photo of me on your nightstand.
So then why were you in my room in the first place?
She looked at him, closed her eyes, and looked away, angry at the heat that spread through her cheeks.
Hell,
he muttered. Then he took a deep breath and said,
Screw professional ethics. I'm here because your cousins hired me to keep an eye on you. They didn't tell me anything except that you had an ex who wasn't taking the breakup well and had tried to kick your door in before you left town to come back here.
My cousins? Her jaw wouldn't close for a second to form another word. Then it did, and she clenched it and tried really hard to be angry instead of relieved. Those overbearing, overprotective, meddling jerks.
They care about you.
I guess. Sighing heavily, she finished pouring one bourbon into the other, capped the full one, and wiped both bottles down.
I didn't know you were a doctor until you told me,
Darryl said.
A doctor? Damn, Sophie, I'm not sure I'm good enough for you.
He leaned over the bar, giving a quick look behind them before stroking the back of her hand. It sent a warm feeling up her arm.
So how is it you know your way around the back side of a bar so darn well?
I bartended my way through med school. usually at one of the places Uncle Bobby Joe had his hands in. He made his fortune finding failing bars and clubs, fixing them up and flipping them, till he came here and decided to stay.
I'm impressed.
He's an impressive man.
I'm impressed by you. Bartending your way through school. That's something.
She shrugged. It's not as impressive as the Secret Service, she said. Was that true? He nodded.
I never lied to you.
Why was she starting to feel a little bit giddy that he wasn't working for her ex after all? It took a minute for the anger to drain, but once it did, the relief was almost buoyant. He was working for her cousins, watching out for her. It offended her feminist sensibilities, and yet reassured her about the magic currently unfolding in her life. With him. That Santa Claus might have been onto something after all. Then again, Darryl was planning to leave here and head back to his old life pretty soon, so there was still that.
I'm sorry I started us off by lying to you, he said. I wasn't expecting this, whatever it is, between us. I wasn't ready for it. I didn't handle it right. But I promise, I'm never going to be less than honest with you again.
Wow. She just blinked at him, almost wondering if he could truly be real.
And I'm sorry you went through all that crap with Skylar and the police and losing your job.
She was quiet for a moment. All things considered, everything worked out in my favor. But Skylar seems to be having a hard time letting go.
Of you?
He asked. Wow, his eyes were intense right then. Yeah, and he's walking around free until his sentencing.
Are you afraid of him?
Not in the least, she said, looking him right in the eye again. I could kick his ass one-handed, especially when he's falling down drunk, which he's been most of the time since this all came out. She shook her head. That's what the boys don't get. At heart, Skylar's a marshmallow. He wouldn't hurt a fly. I just needed to get someplace where I could sleep at night and... She sighed. And try to figure things out. You know, why all this happened, what it means.
Does it have to mean something?
He asked, frowning a little, like he really wanted to know. At some point, she had leaned her elbows on the bar too, and her face had made its way awfully close to his. She backed away, straightened up. I didn't used to think so, but since I've been here, I'm not sure. Maybe everything means something, she said. Then she shrugged and turned to put the full bourbon bottle onto the rack behind her. Another couple of months and my prescription pad would have been obsolete. We were in the process of switching over to an entirely computerized system. Ironic, right?
That stinks, Sophie. I'm sorry it happened.
He straightened up as well, set himself back on his stool. I'm not sorry it happened. Now that I really think about it, I'm not sorry at all. She reached for a tall glass, poured him a sweet tea, and set it on a coaster in front of him. I was at first, but I gotta tell you, this everything happens for a reason thing is starting to make sense to me. I'm starting to feel excited to see what the reason was for this. This whole thing woke me up, Darryl. It showed me I was in the wrong relationship with the wrong guy, and apparently in the wrong city, in the wrong state, working in the wrong job. She bit her lower lip, then said, I knew it too. I knew it way down deep. I'd been feeling restless and grouchy and tense. I just couldn't put my finger on why. But that was why. I ignored my feelings until the problem got so big I had no choice but to make a change. He was staring at her as if he'd never seen her before.
That's a little too deep for me.
She shrugged. Yeah, was for me too when I first heard it.
Who'd you hear it from?
He asked. She smiled and recalled that twinkle in Santa's eye. Santa Claus. Then she noticed Rising Outlaws lead singer Ben Armstrong waving at her from the stage. The band was ready. She gave him a nod. Got a surprise for you, Darryl. Frowning, Darryl spun his bar stool slowly around as the band played the opening chords of Christmas Blues, his one and only hit song, and Sophia prepared to see a smile on his face. He slid off his stool to stand up on his feet. She was still speaking to his back and couldn't see his reaction. I thought I'd have Jason introduce you after they play it. You can take a little bow. You okay with that?
No,
he said. Sophia stiffened. The word was clipped and kind of gravelly.
No, I'm not okay with that.
He walked away, across the floor and through the bat-wing doors. They flapped 3 times after he'd passed. Oh, hell. She'd really messed up then, hadn't she? She couldn't help but wonder how and why.